And the question is, how exactly can I increase my CRS scores? Quite honestly, I'm going to be brutally honest in this video because it's not like there's a magic trick or a particular thing you can do and it will all go away and automatically, spike. But I'm going to be very honest about steps you would need to take, even though they might not be convenient or easy, to help you boost your points. So before I dive in, I'm just going to give you a brief background. You all know the express entry is a point-based system by the government of Canada, where they allocate points to different factors, so things like your education, things like your age, things like your years of work experience. So it's for skilled workers, right? And that's the process I went through. So each of these things, it's a long list, but each of these things have a point. And what happens at the end is there's a cutoff, about 3 cutoffs every month. And if you do meet the requirement, if your the total of all your points for all these factors reach the cutoff points, then you'll be sent an invitation to apply. So now, if you do not have this number of points, you will not be sent an invitation to apply. You'll just remain in the pool where you would be with other candidates who are also waiting to get to the cutoff point, okay? So now, the express entry system lately, you must have noticed, especially in recent months, actually from last year, the cutoff scores have been quite high, right? So once upon a time in 2017, we even had the cutoff as low as 413, yes. But throughout the whole of 2018, the lowest cutoff was 439, and 439 only happened in December. This was the last month in the year. That was the lowest cutoff. Right now, the most recent cutoff, I think, is 449. We had a lot of 445s last year, okay? And what is happening right now with this trend, what it means actually is that there are more qualified people in the pool. So just imagine, look at it this way, you're all placed in a giant classroom and you're all given points for each factor you have. And in that same classroom, you have someone there who has a master's degree, that's extra points by the way, who has a sibling who lives in Canada, who can speak French. That is a whole lot of points. So the more qualified people there are in the pool, the higher the points would be. So that's actually the secret of what exactly is happening. And there's only a number allocated for every time there's a cutoff and they invite people to apply. So all the qualified people quickly take up that slot or those slots available. So what that does, it makes the cutoff high, it leaves you in the pool, and you're not able to reach the cutoff, right? So now, while I might not be able to tell you, oh, this is what you should do, and I promise you your scores would leap, there are actually things I can recommend you do, because I know people it worked for. Because once upon a time, it wasn't this tedious, right? You could be comfortable having just a first degree, a bachelor's degree or something, and you just study really hard for your IELTS and then you reach the cutoff. But right now, with the way things are, you not only need to study extra hard and get the highest band points, you probably even need a second degree for you to qualify, right? Now, this is not to say that there are not other routes you could take even if you don't have a second degree, which is the essence of this whole video. So the goal of this video actually is to be able to help you, and I'm hoping you watch it, you refer to it every now and then. The first thing I would recommend is retaking the IELTS. Now, this might not apply to anyone. Before you retake the IELTS, there is this tool I always recommend people go to. So it's just a tool by the Canadian government to help you determine what your points are. So just before you even dive into the process, you're able to see what your potential or tentative points would be and see if it's worth it or see what routes to take instead, okay? So even before you retake your IELTS, you can do a simulation with this tool to see what your potential score would be. For instance, let's say I have 7 overall, I have 7.5 in listening, I have 7 in reading, I have maybe 7 in writing and another 7 in speaking, right? That is not enough. I can just go to that simulation tool and say, oh, what if I had 8 in listening? I had 7.5 in reading. Would the points then be enough, right? So that is how you use that tool. So you can do a simulation to see what points you would need to get in your IELTS, and then study really hard to attain those points. Don't use the same methods, because if you've written IELTS more than once and you're still getting the same results, it means there's something you're doing wrong. trust me, there's a formula to practicing for IELTS, and if you do follow it dedicatedly, trust me, you'd see an increase in your results. So I know, trust me, I know people who had thought, I've done this thing, I don't think it works, like I've done it so much, I'm tired. But just apply that formula and you'd see results. Determination, guys, it's 2019, determination, yeah? So I'll suggest you could simulate and see if a higher IELTS score would give you more points, right? And if it does, there you go. So that's one of the ways. Another way I think is very important is if you do speak French. Some of you have a second language, like you know how to speak French. You might not have written a professional exam for French, but you know how to speak French. Guess what? You have extra points if you can speak French, because Canada is bilingual. They are very open and happy to receive people who are able to speak both languages. So assume you know how to speak French, but your French might not be that good. Why don't you put in some time and study more, then take the French test? There's a TEF, or let me see. Okay, I don't have it here, but there's a TEF test. In that, when you use that simulation tool, you see the required test as well if you're going to be taking a French language. So you can study hard, take the test, and guess what? That's more points right there. So if you do speak some French or you understand French, I would suggest that you take the exam as well, just to boost your CRS score, okay? So another thing about the French is, quite honestly, you would not regret being able to understand French as a second language here. Naturally, bilingual jobs here in Canada pay more than regular jobs. So bilingual jobs, there could be a job posting and they say, oh, we need someone who can speak both English and French, who can write both English and French. And you are going to be getting, well, almost doubly paid than someone who speaks just English. It's in demand, right? So that's actually something I think you should do if you do understand French, okay? And then the third thing I would suggest is that you consider the provincial nominee program. I did not go through the provincial nominee program because when I did mine, let me just give you a brief story of mine. I actually had to do my IELTS twice, because the first one I had a 7 overall, which was not enough. So I did it a second time, studied really hard, and then had an 8, which was enough. Note that I actually do have a master's degree. So the difference between the points for my first IELTS and my second, I'm sorry, did I say 8? I think it was actually 7.5, my second one, because the difference between the total points was 7 and 7.5. The first time I had 401, but after I did it a second time, I had 7.5 overall, and my score leaps to 470. I'm not even kidding. So this is just taking you back to the IELTS point I was making. A 0.5 difference in your score, if it pushes you to the next band, can make an entire difference in your score, okay? So for instance, the highest band for listening is 8.5. There is like a 45-point difference for someone who gets an 8 and an 8.5, right? So if you're able to just push up to the next band, for reading, the highest band is 8 and above. So if you're able to move from a 7.5 or a 7 to 8, that's sweet, really sweet. For writing, the highest band is 7.5. And for speaking, the highest band is 7.5 as well. So just put in a little more effort, okay? This is really important, yeah? So now let's go back to the provincial nominee program. So this is where provinces are like states here in Canada. So provinces are autonomous and they can decide how they want to admit people into their country, even though the express entry is still the core of it. So what it means is that for most of them, even if you're going to do a provincial nomination, you must still be in that express entry process. You must be in the pool for them to be able to select you. So this is when a province decides, hey, we want to select some people to come live in our province. So for this period of time until they become citizens, they will be living in the province. And guess what that does for you? If you're able to secure a provincial nomination, that is 600 points extra. Can you see this completely beats every cutoff there's ever been? So just imagine for everything you had 0. I mean, that's impossible. And you had a PNP, Provincial Nominee Program, score of 600. Your score is going off the sky. It's going off the roof. It's shattering the glass. you know. So that is where I want many of you to start thinking. So right now I'm in the pool, I've been there, the points are not coming down. What can I do? Consider provincial nominee programs. This whole relocating to Canada journey is about research. I didn't do the provincial nominee program because I had enough points, but I know a lot of people who went through that route and they are here right now. Manitoba provincial nominee program, Nova Scotia nominee. So there are some provinces that are popular do provincial nominee programs. So you can even research to see what provinces are currently doing that. So for some of them it's free, for some it's paid. For Ontario, the province where I live, because I mean it's in demand, the provincial nominee program is $8,500, and this is in addition to being qualified for it in the first place. But there are provinces like Manitoba, I think that is free, I'm not really sure, but it's either very little or free. There's Nova Scotia, there's Saskatchewan. So if the federal route is not working for you, you move to the province. I mean, this is 2019, you need to do things differently. And the reason why I'm really passionate about this topic is I can relate to your pain. You're looking at the points, there's nothing you can do, you're losing time. If your age is increasing, your points are probably dropping. Like if you start going above 30, your points for age starts dropping, right? So I can totally relate. So do some research, find out more about the provincial nominee program and give it a shot. Trust me, you won't regret it, right? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Exactly. So just give it a shot, okay? And then another thing I would suggest, another point, would be having a second degree, a master's degree, is really, really, really beneficial. I mean, when I was doing my master's degree, I had no plans in this world to relocate to Canada. I did not think that at some point it would come in handy and I would need it to relocate to Canada. I mean, I just thought, okay, let's just learn something new. Let's try and diversify. Let's try and branch off to another field. How? Okay, let's do a master's degree. So you would never regret doing a master's degree. Now, this is not saying because you want to come to Canada, go do a master's degree. So now this is for people who were already contemplating a second degree, and then you thought about Canada and then you started weighing the options. So do I now do a second degree or do this Canada relocation thing? Or do I do a master's degree or do I do this Canada relocation thing? Quite honestly, if you're already in the process of doing a master's degree, I would advise that you do the master's degree. Canada can wait. Don't forget, Canada is not a career decision. I always tell people it's a life decision. What it offers you, or what this program, the Federal Skilled Worker Program by the Federal Government of Canada offers you, is an opportunity to be a permanent resident. Let me tell you the hierarchy. After citizens, permanent residents, that's the hierarchy. As a permanent resident, you can do everything a citizen can do apart from voting. You have access to travel visa-free to many countries. You have access to amenities. You have access to benefits by the government, childcare benefits and all that. So it's amazing, yeah? Free healthcare. So it is a life decision. So I would advise you do what you have to do. It might not be the route you had planned, but it's going to be beneficial in the end, okay? So research more about provincial nominee programs, try and apply, see what the requirements are, and start trying to think towards that line. It's 600 points, guys. 600, that's a lot of points. Yeah. And then for the master's degree, like I said, you should only do this if you're already in the process, you were considering it and all that, then you can do the master's degree. If not, you can focus on the provincial nominee program or bettering your outscore. But if you're already thinking, oh, I think I should take it, please go ahead and take the master's degree, right? You never know when next you would need it. Like I said, I never knew a master's degree would be the boost for my CRS score. I never knew. I mean, I just thought to take a master's degree. So if you're already in the process, go ahead, take the master's degree. It doesn't matter. It could be an online degree, right? That's going to help. I feel your pain, but give it a shot. And then finally, guys, this time you have to be smart. You need to employ the services of an immigration consultant. I've always been a DIY person. I believe God gave us all the God gave us all the internet, and there's nothing anyone can do there I can do as well, except it's a specialized thing. Trust me, that is always me. I did my process myself, but then you have to recognize the place of expertise, the place of experience. Okay, so what an immigration consultant gives you is expertise, experience. They have dealt with a wide range and category of clients with all sorts of problems and all sorts of situations. This is what they do for a living. So they are able to know how best to position you. Yeah, once upon a time when the scores were still nice and rosy, you did not need one. But right now, you probably need one. What do you need them for? Consultation, advice. Okay. They are able to let you know, okay, you know what, this route might not be working, but I have a client I did this for and it did work. So would you want to try this? Would you want to try this route as well? I advise you try this because this is the way to go right now. Okay, so that is why you might need an immigration consultant. And there are scammers, guys. Don't listen to anyone who just tells you, oh, I'm an immigration consultant, I've done this for XYZ. Their pointers already let you know the person has no idea what they're saying. If they're already calling some ridiculous amounts in millions that this is how much is needed. Immigration consultants, they might have a consultation fee, they might have a fee for the service, but every other fee are fees required by the government. It's not like there's anybody you actually have to give the money and then they make you work. So they have their service fee, they have their consultation fee. But then be sure it's a credible source.